All right, let's dive into one of the biggest stories in technology, the decades-long quest to build a machine that can think. It's a journey with a wild twist. We actually succeeded, but the result is nothing like what we imagined.
It's one of those grand scientific dreams, right? It's a question that's been bugging us pretty much since the first computer was switched on. Could we actually create a mind, an intelligence, in our own image?
And here's the kicker, the big twist in the whole story. We got our thinking machines. They're here. But they are so different from what we thought we were building. And that has changed absolutely everything.
So, to really get what's happening now with AI, we have to go back to the beginning. The original dream wasn't just to build a fancy calculator. The goal was to build a machine that could reason, that could understand, that could genuinely think the way a person does.
This whole thing really kicks off with pioneers like Alan Turing. I mean, way back in 1950, he wasn't just fiddling with code. He was asking these huge philosophical questions. He laid it all out with his famous Turing test, basically setting the stage for the entire field of AI. So the first big crack at this was an idea called symbolic AI. You can think of it as a top-down approach. The theory was, hey, if we can just write down all the rules of logic and feed a computer every single fact about the world, it should be able to reason its way through any problem, kind of like a perfect Sherlock Holmes. And you have to understand, the hype back then was unreal. Seriously, in the 1960s, a lot of the smartest people in the field were totally convinced that they were just a decade or two away from building a human-level AI. They thought they were about to crack the very code of consciousness itself. But, yeah, that incredibly optimistic dream ran headfirst into a brick wall called reality. The progress just stopped. The money dried up, and the whole field pretty much went into hibernation. They called it the AI winter. Okay, just look at this timeline. It tells the whole story. AI gets its name in '56, and the hype train leaves the station so fast that by '65, people are predicting the end of human work. But then, boom, reality hits. The first AI winter starts in '73. They tried again in the '80s, and same thing. A second, even colder winter. Even Deep Blue beating the world chess champion in '97, that wasn't real intelligence. It was just a super fast calculator crunching millions of moves. It was a victory of brute force, not thought. So what went so wrong? Why did this whole top-down, rules-based idea totally fall apart? Well, it's because the real world is just messy. It's chaotic, it's unpredictable, and it's full of gray areas. You simply can't write a rule for every single thing that could possibly happen. The dream of a perfect instruction manual for reality was just that, a dream. And this right here, this is the moment where the story takes a hard left turn. After decades of banging their heads against the wall, a new generation of researchers basically said, okay, let's throw out the entire rulebook and start over. I mean, this quote from Nello Christiani just says it all, doesn't it? They gave up. They stopped trying to build a mind from the top down by hand-coding rules. Instead, they decided to start from the bottom up, with nothing but raw data, and just see what happened. And just look at how completely different the new approach was. I mean, it's a total 180. The old way was all about pure logic. The new way, it's all about statistics and probability. We stopped trying to teach the machine knowledge and instead just let it learn by finding patterns in tons and tons of examples. The entire philosophy was flipped on its head. And this new way of doing things is what we now call machine learning. The idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of giving a computer a rule, you just show it a million examples of something and say, hey, you figure out the pattern. You see this in action every single day with the spam filter in your email. It's so simple. You click, this is spam. That's the data. The system then looks at that email and millions of others and just calculates probabilities. It doesn't know what the word winner means. It just knows, statistically, that emails with that word have a, say, 98% chance of being junk. It's all math, zero understanding. So what happens when you take this simple idea of pattern matching and you hook it up to the practically infinite fire hose of data that is the internet? Well, the results were, frankly, unreasonable. They were beyond what anyone thought was possible. Check this out. Back in 2012, something happened that felt like straight-up science fiction. A Microsoft researcher gave a speech in English, and an AI translated it into spoken Mandarin in real time in his own voice. How? It didn't understand a single word. It had just analyzed a gigantic library of translated texts and learned the statistical patterns. It knew nothing, but it could do the impossible. And the secret sauce here is just the mind-boggling scale of the data. To put it in perspective, look at a self-driving car. It's processing about a gigabyte of information every second. That is hundreds of times more data than your own brain is processing. It's not thinking better, it's just seeing the world at a resolution that is completely inhuman. So this is really the key thing you have to remember. The AI that runs our world today isn't thinking in any way we would recognize. It's a massively powerful pattern matching machine. It's finding statistical connections in more data than any human could ever look at in 1,000 lifetimes. Which brings us to where we are today, living in this strange new reality. We finally built our powerful, world-changing artificial intelligence. The only catch? It's nothing like us. Well, it's alien. And this leads to the huge and, frankly, kind of scary question. When an AI denies someone a loan, or spots something in a medical scan, or makes any critical decision, we have to ask, why? What was its logic? And here's the deeply unsettling answer. A lot of the time, we have absolutely no idea. There wasn't a simple rule. The decision was the outcome of millions of tiny statistical calculations. There is no simple why that a human can understand. It's a complete black box. And because these systems are black boxes, when they fail in these bizarre and sometimes horrifying ways. These are just normal bugs. The AI is simply reflecting the patterns it found in our own messy, biased data. It learned what we taught it, warts and all. So, at the end of this long 75-year road, the quest to build an artificial human mind didn't work out. But in that failure, we stumbled onto something completely different. We created a new form of intelligence, one that's powerful, incredibly useful, but at its core, fundamentally alien. And that leaves us with maybe one of the biggest questions of our century. As we keep handing over more and more of our world to these powerful alien minds, how are we going to manage that? How can we learn to trust an intelligence that we don't and maybe can't fully understand?